What strange fact do you know only because of your job? There was a certain lichen that was only known to live on one boulder in the middle of the Mojave Desert in an army training area. As an endangered species, for decades this rock was strictly off limits for like 100 meters around it. Then the army wanted to expand featuring Owen to include a few more valleys to the south and had to do an EPA impact study which included a biologic survey. They found that stuff everywhere. Came off the endangered species list. It wasn't endangered, just no one ever bothered to look for it before. It's funny how that can totally happen. There's still places in the world that we're exploring. We could find an endangered species thriving in some place. The internet company actually has a fix my service button. Want to know what it does? It sends a signal to your modem, which in turn links up with the built-in router and issues a power cycle instruction. It turns it off and back on again. I have definitely called my ISP asking why I was having some issues, after spending 3-ish days extensively troubleshooting it myself, and the first thing they did was give me some long-winded explanation of something that was them actually just resetting my router. In colonial America they used to give out cake on election day instead of I voted stickers. Pretty sure more people would vote if they brought back free food at the polls. If a person compulsively pulls out their hair, trichotillomania, there's a decent chance they are also eating it. This not only causes some significant gastric issues, but because human hair is fairly absorbent, it can also affect how effective psych meds are, since they may be absorbed by the hair. The Smithsonian has a facility where it stores a lot of its large artifacts not currently on exhibit. It also has a room with a pit filled with flesh-eating beetles which is used to strip skeletons intended for future display. There is a security guard whose sole job is to sit in the room all day and make sure no one comes in and accidentally gets too close. Surgeons are called to remove body bits, not even parts, from the mechanical parts of trains after fatalities. Oh no, that is the worst job I've ever heard of. Hot metal in the sun. Just no. A typical treated wood privacy fence has a life expectancy of 12 years. Popcorn ceiling. The popcorn itself has a life expectancy of 150 years. Do not ever paint a popcorn ceiling. I charge way more money to remove a painted popcorn ceiling than a non-painted. Beef goes off color and turns a bruised, brown color when not exposed to oxygen. It's seen most often in the middle of tightly packed ground beef. A lot of people mistake this for spoilage. It's not, and there are other indicators of spoilage when beef is starting to rot. And yes, I do have to explain this at least once in a regular work week. At Walgreens you can return basically anything as long as you have a receipt and it's within 30 days. Someone once returned ice cream because they didn't like the flavor. The return policy at Bed Bath & Beyond was absurd too. Once had a lady exchange a very used comforter for a brand new one. There is a distinct difference in smell that sets apart dead animals and dead humans. That's an unpleasant fact. The chamber of the combustion integrated rack aboard the International Space Station has a volume of 105 liters. I used to work in a commercial laundry facility. We washed and packaged towels for hotels. If you stain a towel with hair dye, menstrual blood, food ect, the towel will be dyed another color and is used for pet groomers instead. My uncle worked in maintenance at a hospital and when he told us they boiled the blood out of scrubs my mind was blown. Those surgical techs could get anything on their scrubs, rags, jackets, and as long as it wasn't alien fluids it came off with a good long boiling. Target folds their towels differently to make their store look more upper class than Walmart and other stores. Capacity at gigs can be determined by how fat or thin the venue expect the fans of the band to be. 13-year-old girl fans equals increased capacity. Older, male metal fans equals decreased. Software can be considered a medical device and may require FDA approval. I would imagine so, after that whole radiation software bug killing so many people. I can't recall the name at the moment, but anyone who's taken an engineering ethics course probably knows what I'm talking about. If a business does not file a 5,500 SF form for their 401k, the IRS will charge them $1,100 per day it is late. In 2018 this number is changing to $2,063 per day. Also there is no limit on how many days this charge will apply. Joke's on you, I don't get benefits. The barcode number for Cadbury's Creme Eggs. 50,201,600. Most retail workers in Britain will learn that number whether they want to or not. Some retail stores' security cameras are able to capture what you watch type view on your phone. I sometimes work for loss prevention and have seen other LPs read texts people were sending. I didn't stores had such high quality cameras until now. The camera quality isn't the hard part. The hard part is all the data you now need to store. If you are ever at an accident scene and you hear a cop, fireman, EMT say someone is DRT, it means dead right there, as opposed to DOA, which generally means they have been formally pronounced dead by a competent medical professional. This is mostly only used to refer to someone that is so obviously dead that anyone can tell that any life-saving measure are futile. My cousin is a nurse in a smallish town. She told me if you ever hear on the news about an accident where someone was taken to the hospital she works at, it means they were already dead. The EMT just needed a doctor to call it. I think she said that her hospital didn't have the proper equipment to take care of those type of emergencies. The average homeowner keeps a mortgage for 7 years. They either sell or refi at some point. Radiation can only travel in a straight line and can't penetrate through more than a few feet of concrete. If you were to jump into a spent fuel pool and tread water at the surface, you'd experience a smaller dose of radiation than if you were to simply walk around outside and get the normal background radiation dose. Also a radiation worker, love telling people about the banana equivalent dose on reactor tours. Area codes with a 0 in the middle are some of the first area codes that were issued. I'm now at the point where I can look at a cruise ship, tell you the name of the ship, the parent company, how many passengers and crew she can house, the gross tonnage, the different stateroom categories and any standout features the ship may have. To avoid paying taxes on your Maserati or $300k RV, set up a POB in Montana and an LLC. Then you can have your vehicle titled and registered in that state, under an LLC, and avoid sales taxes and higher DMV fees. I usually see people from Colorado and California do this. Drowning is very quiet and hard to notice if you're not looking for it. When I worked with children around our pool area, we were told to look for shadows at the bottom of the pool, not for the typical signs of drowning. How many people are tricked by obvious scams on computers? I've had clients that filled out surveys in order to get free iPhones. Also people who deliberately installed MacKeeper thinking it was an antivirus. That's just terrifying. Almost 100% of nursing homes commit Medicare and Medicaid fraud. 90% of online travel websites on the internet today are owned and or powered by just 2 companies, Expedia and Priscilline. I teach about the Holocaust and the Nazi concentration and death camps. When Auschwitz was liberated, 7 tons of human hair were found bundled in sacks. Upon further investigation, it was discovered that the hair had been sheared from the heads of women after they were killed in the gas chambers. Documents were also found that led to the factory where the hair had been destined. Another 2 tons of hair were found at that factory, as well as the hair cloth the hair was being turned into. Due to the shortages in textiles, the Nazis were selling the hair to factories so that lining for clothing and upholstery for vehicles could be made in secret. The hair was also used as a stuffing in mattresses. Nobody outside the camps and factories was supposed to know this was being done. A person on their deathbed will occasionally stop breathing for upwards of a minute, only to start again. Maybe not strange, but it sure scared the heck out of me the first time I was sitting vigil over someone. I work in an old folks home. Some people with schizophrenia, when experiencing an acute psychotic episode, often experience hypersexuality at the same time. The 3 points of the Mercedes-Benz star are for the 3 forms of transportation: land, sea, and air. Land surveyor. Most people don't know where their property ends. They just assume based on fences and streets. This is made worse when people don't understand what the public works right of way is. Attorney here. Normally ignorance of the law is not an excuse, meaning if you perform a crime without knowing it's a crime, you can still be convicted of it. The reason for this is that you are on constructive notice of the law because statutes are publicly available, although states differ on how easy they make them to find search. That's not the strange fact, though. The strange thing is that there is one law that doesn't follow this rule. Knowing of its existence is an element, meaning that if you don't know about it you can't get in trouble for doing the exact same thing someone who does know about it would get in trouble for. This law is related to taxes. I think it's actually been a while and I've forgotten the law itself, which puts me back in the safe zone, insider trading, or some other financial crime. Because the US laws on those things are so complicated and confusing, the idea that you can look them up was deemed unreasonable. I work at a school. 75% of the children that go to my school are from absentee mother households. 75% out of 900 kids. Single fathers. That is an odd statistic. In the German military, if you raise your hand to wave to someone or you want to say something and raise your hand to signal it, you do so always with your left and if possible you also keep most of your fingers closed. This is to prevent people from taking video and sorting out a frame where it looks like you would raise your hand to a Nazi greeting. A lot of people don't realize that renting an apartment requires signing a legal binding document. I always thought it was common sense. But the amount of people that show up to my office expecting to pick up keys without ever signing the lease or trying to move out when they have 6 months left of their lease and getting upset when they realize there's financial consequences is astounding to me. These are all people over the age of 18. It's a strange fact about people that are somehow independent enough to live on their own. They aren't really. School doesn't teach finances or even basic contract law. Parents don't either. Out on your own, an adult, without the tools to operate as such. You can actually trade futures contracts for live hogs. In fact, you can also trade futures contracts for live cattle. When the futures contract expires for cattle you can take delivery. However, when a futures contract expires for hogs you have to cash settle, meaning paying out the amount of the contract. The reason is that if you were to take delivery on cattle you can throw them out to pasture and they will maintain their weight fairly well. Hogs, if you take delivery, must be kept at special feeding troughs or else they lose weight very fast and that means you are losing money by the second. People knew this and would threaten to speed up the delivery process unless the new buyer paid them more, essentially holding them hostage. The CME found out about all these people fricking around and changed the contract to cash settle. As a result, trading live hog futures is not actually trading the underlying commodity, but rather trading the price of the underlying commodity, which I always found very interesting. Steakhouse restaurants generally make less than $1 on a dry-aged steak that costs $50 when you factor in the cooking gas, labor, and recooks due to server guest error. They usually make more than 50% of their money on the booze. It's like a movie theater and popcorn. Texas has 65 public water systems with the same levels or worse of contamination that Flint, Michigan. The epoch time reference used by Microsoft Excel is very different compared to any Unix Linux Windows Server system. The picture of toothpaste on a toothbrush and a toothpaste ad is called a nurdle. Inside a lot of people's drywalls is a construction worker's lunch wrappers. I work in EMS billing. It's perfectly normal for EMS companies to have only 1 in 10 or 20 uninsured people pay their bill. I know of at least one client of ours that has a 1 in 40 payment rate. Schizophrenics are statistically more likely to be victims of violence than perpetrators. There is an old man in California that runs 3 times a week and has a healthy sex life. Thanks for the resume summary, Glenn, but we are moving forward with additional candidates at this time. Damn it, I knew I was oversharing. You've been visited by a dog. It's a regular dog but he's a good boy. If you comment pet 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 he'll let you pet him. If you are new to the channel, you can subscribe. I publish new videos every day. Until then, check another video, or don't. Either way, have a great day you magnificent people.